A group of Free State ANC members have marched to the party's Luthuli House headquarters in Johannesburg. They want senior leaders to provide relief to victims of the failed Asbestos and Vrede dairy farm projects. The demonstrators handed over a memorandum to the ANC spokesperson, Luthuli House.
We are sure someone will come and receive this memorandum because the ANC is a caring organization for its people. However, we want to see more arrests happening in the Free State province in all these projects which have been, people have been looting on. And we equally want to see more accountability, more monitoring, which is strictly processes which will be put in place by the government to making sure that it does not become easy for people, for anyone in the near future to think of looting. So basically we are here for that, and we also want the NEC of the ANC through government to make sure that the beneficiaries of dairy farm are reimbursed with the torture and the pain which they've been caused in a few past years. The issue with the ANC Secretary General is that he's not a principled man as we would think of he is. A person who's said to be a god of RET or a principal or father of RET, to see under his administration old people having been used and being tricked by his government, and which are black people in this instance. Now, it makes one wonder when he's talking about the radical economic transformation. Who is this radical economic transformation supposed to develop and speedily, radically, in fact, develop within the ANC? Yes, we blame the Asbestos as because then he was a premier here, and every project, a major project to happen in any province, has to first go through the council, the executive council, which is the EXCO. Now, how did he come about that? He did not know about such projects, meaning he knew about this project.
Senior politics reporter Ziyanda Ngobo was at the protest. She joins me now live. Ziyanda, one of the leaders who's been responsible for putting this march together is the former MEC for Economic Development in the Free State, Mxolisi Dukwana. The irony is not lost on me that today these people are outside Luthuli House calling for Asbestos to go, somebody he once considered a friend.
Most certainly, and I think what's very interesting is how emboldened, members of the Free State are seemingly, as opposed to what we would have seen just maybe a year ago, Kathy, and it would seem that the actions by the law enforcement agencies and perhaps even that Twitterant by Fikile Mbalula directly challenging Asbestos publicly so, it seems like the tide is turning within the organization. I mean, we've never really seen a demonstration against Asbestos in this particular fashion, and in fact Luthuli House was chastised by some of those protesters for not giving a clear timeline of when he'd be getting back to them regarding their memorandum of demands, which includes placing municipalities within the Free State under Section 139, actually pretty much dissolving the provincial government, saying that the rampant corruption has been happening for 20 years, but also for the ANC leadership to deal with forces that they say are organizing themselves as an organization within an organization and calling themselves RET forces. And of course we know that these RET forces have aligned themselves to former President Jacob Zuma and Asbestos. So certainly I think it's an indictment of what's happening within the organization to have a march of this nature, especially on a Monday when the National Working Committee is meeting.
Some of these individuals are would-be beneficiaries of the Steena Dairy project, which we understand has managed to get some operations going and as well making money. They believe that they, as the intended beneficiaries, need to be somewhat compensated. Why do they think Luthuli House has that money? Why aren't they taking this fight to government?
Well, they say that Luthuli House has the money because the people who are behind the corruption, i.e. Asbestos, was the one who would have benefited and his cronies would have benefited, and therefore that money must be recovered from these leaders who were meant to have given them that money. They're saying, recover the money, give us back the money, and we won't actually even interrupt that Steena Dairy Farm project. Let it continue, but you've wasted enough time. You used our names when you started off this project and our personal details, pretending to want to empower us, and yet this project is continuing, and yet we haven't even benefited.
Dukwana, again, who's one of those that's part of this grouping now, is saying, of course, that there needs to be accountability, but also looking back perhaps a couple of years at the time that the asbestos project was taking place. He described Ace Magashule as being a blesser through the monies that were channeled from the asbestos project. So the individuals there today, how much responsibility and accountability do they place at the door of Dukwana? Because he certainly isn't a player that was isolated from the decision making at the time.
Well, there was mention of Dukwana in a not so direct manner. They called them the twins, so to speak, that being Ace Magashule and Mxolisi Dukwana, if my interpretation was correct, from what was being said by those protesters. So they do play some semblance of responsibility, but I think this particular protest was aimed at Ace Magashule, who, as you heard Lonwabo speaking, he was the premier at the time, and as you're saying, he was seen as the blesser, he was seen as the father of this radical economic transformation, and their cry really is to say, then who exactly does this RET particularly benefit, if not just a few people within your own political circles?
Let's talk about the rest of the plan that they have. It's the first of many protests, we're told.
Yes, we do know that they are going to continue with these protests. It's just unclear where exactly they're going to be directing them. But I think, of course, today it was quite strategic to go to Luthuli House on Monday when the NWC is meeting. And, of course, we know they are meeting in person as well. So there should be some semblance of response from the National Working Committee.
All right. Our senior politics reporter, Zianda Ngobo, and the people of the Free State wanting to give a face to those who've been affected by some of the corruption and malfeasance in that province.